to part 3, which will be to explain what religious naturalism is, though I hope you now have an inkling of its grounding in a naturalized spirituality and in grace. I've mentioned the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science a couple of times. People sometimes get confused and think we are the Institute for Religion or the Institute of Religion in an Age of Science, but we are the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science. The Institute began as a group of scholars from Harvard and MIT and the University of Chicago who wanted to study religion in the light of science, and it continues in that direction today, having produced 55 annual well-regarded conferences on the interface between science and religion. It has 3 primary goals, the relevant one for our purposes tonight being, quote, to formulate dynamic and positive relationships between the concepts developed by science and the goals and hopes of humanity expressed through religion. Given such a goal, you won't be surprised to hear that the Institute has attracted a very broad and cross-disciplinary group of members over its 55 years of existence, both scholars, scientists, and ordinary people and students. It has been the #1 workplace for studying the interface between science and religion since its founding in 1954, and virtually every other science-religion group now in existence is in one way or another a spin-off from it. Several years ago, the diversity within the Institute led its council to allow for interest groups within the organization so that like-minded persons could have a home within a home. And several of us started the Religious Naturalist Interest Group. We're not the first or the only such group, as you would know from reading Jerome Stone's great new book, Religious Naturalism Today, which you might want to look at afterwards. But we're probably the main catalyst for thinking about religious naturalism. One of us, Loyal Rue, was the first to revive the idea of religious naturalism after a 30-year hiatus from an earlier emergence in the 1930s to 1950s, though religious naturalism actually traces back to the philosopher Baruch Spinoza and with some roots in ancient philosophy. Another of us, Ursula Goodenough, has probably the best-selling book in the arena called The Sacred Depths of Nature. In terms of tonight's talk, religious means to affirm love, joy, trust, forgiveness, awe, gratitude, and compassion, as well as some of the other positive and even some of the negative emotions I mentioned within reasonable parameters. The root lig in religion, religion, means connection, as in ligament, or in biochemistry as in ligase. And our connectedness is a major part of what we mean by religious. We therefore acknowledge a shared set of values and concerns pertaining to peace, justice, dignity, cultural and ecological diversity, and planetary sustainability. I want to take a moment to explain a theory of religion constructed by the philosopher Loyal Rue, whose book on the theory of religion is entitled Religion is Not About God. As he explains, theology may be about God, but religion is about us and about our needs and aspirations. I won't go into the details of his theories except to talk about this chart I drew earlier and show you the basic idea in which Rue sketches out the basic requirements for any religious worldview destined to last, which he illustrates by showing how 5 long-lasting religious traditions match up with his theory. Rue first says there must be a central story. And that story has to do a particular thing. It has to somehow or other show what is, how what is connects to what matters. Or said another way, how a cosmology connects to a morality. For example, in the Judeo-Christian story, it says that the cosmos came into being by the creation of God. And the same God specified the morality we should live in accordance with. So what is and what matters were directly linked in that religion, and other religions accomplish the same thing in other ways. There must also be a central metaphor. I kind of overdid the word metaphor, but such as God caring for his people, to give the story unity. I'll pause here to tell you that for religious naturalism, the central metaphor is evolution, which is applied first and somewhat literally to the thrilling evolutionary story of humans and the rest of the biosphere, and more metaphorically to culture and to the rest of the cosmos, in terms of what some religious naturalists call the epic of evolution, which began with the Big Bang and the emergence of chemistry before producing life and then human life with our large brain, which itself permitted and now mandates culture. Rue calls the epic of evolution everybody's story. Rue next surrounds this central story with a pentagon. You can see my red lines. Representing 5 strategies all religions use to support the central story. These supports or strategies are institutional strategies, intellectual strategies, experiential strategies, aesthetic strategies, and ritual strategies. You can readily imagine how each of these supports has played out in the world's major religions. I think it's fair to say that while religious naturalism has some awesome intellectual supports by now, dozens of books and perhaps hundreds of articles, I should say, though, in thinking about the aesthetic component of religious naturalism, that there's lots of art and other aesthetics that are being pressed into its service as we speak, and at least one children's book. For example, many modern nature-inspired poems illustrate how aesthetics can support a naturalized spirituality, including this one by Mary Oliver entitled A Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?